So here you are, you're on Mars. Your cell phone battery just died. Your rover battery just died. Okay, well, maybe we have spares. We brought a couple of spares. Dust storm comes along and sandblasts the glass on your solar panels. Ooh, we didn't think about that. Do we have any did we bring any spare glass? Anybody have any spare glass? Oh, well, we'll polish it. Okay, maybe we can... You know those tomatoes? Somebody forgot to turn on the heat. The damn tomatoes are like, rocks this morning. They froze solid. Ooh. Well, we'll just buzz down to the store and buy... Oh, there is no store. What are we going to do? What are we going to do when things start to wear out? Ooh. Or break. Or somebody gets sick and it's like, oh yeah, well, there's this drug that'll absolutely no problem at all. Or, somebody becomes a diabetic, and how much insulin can you make on Mars? You can bring some with you just in case, but, somebody is going to be living there for years on end. You're going to have to make it on Mars. In fact, the longer you're going to stay on Mars, the more you're going to have to make on Mars. You have no choice. You can't ship stuff from the Earth reliably on a regular schedule. And even, shipping it is like $100,000 per kilogram to ship a cargo from the Earth to Mars, and you can only do it once every 22 months. Ooh, living on Mars could be really tough if you're planning to stay there for a while. So if you're doing an expedition, where you're there on the surface for 30 days or 3 months or maybe 6 months, something like that, okay, you can bring a lot of spare parts. Things generally in that time frame don't tend to wear out. But if you're talking about colonizing Mars, living there indefinitely, eventually you have to produce a Martian civilization. You have to have factories that build batteries. You have to have farms that grow food in bulk, not just, little experiments where you can count the little seedlings coming up. I'm talking about, fields and fields of grains or whatever grows efficiently in the amount of space that you could potentially cultivate there. And it gets cold, so you have to enclose it. And there's hardly any air pressure, so you have to have some air pressure. I don't think, 8 millibars is enough pressure, even if it's almost pure CO2 to grow anything on Mars. So I'm just saying that if you're planning, to just visit Mars briefly, do a scientific expedition, reconnaissance, get back on your ascent module and leave after a few weeks or a few months, you can probably bring most everything you need with you. Maybe you'd want to bring water filtration. You can mine water on Mars. If you go to the right place, you can find lots of water on Mars. It's ice. You'll have to melt it. You'll have to filter out all the nasty potential perchlorates and whatever else that might be mixed in. Or you might get lucky. You might just hit a really pure deposit. But the point being is that those who are... There's a big difference between just visiting Mars and planning to live there. And you can say the same thing about the moon. The moon is a little bit more obvious. The moon really doesn't seem terribly hospitable. But Mars, we look at Mars and it's like, it's kind of like the Earth. It kind of looks like the Earth. We see these river channels, and we have the sense that maybe water was there on the surface once. And, it feels like, well, it's kind of a desert-like place. But it's really, really cold, really dry. And they have all the radiation stuff that I still don't want to talk about. But but if you're going to live there for a while, if you're going to build a civilization there, you have to have factories. You have to build all the things that we have here on Earth. You get in your car and you drive down the street and you see the different stores and you see the different places that you would go, the drugstore, whatever. All of that is not going to be there. And if you've got a headache and you don't have any Tylenol or whatever, eventually either you live without it or you've got to learn how to make it on Mars with Martian materials. We can't ship the Earth to Mars. We would have to build a Martian civilization out of what we find there. So think about that. I mean, think about, when you sort of cross that bridge from we're going to visit Mars to, wow, what the hell? We'll just live there. It's just so much easier. Just go one way. We'll live there. We'll stay there. But, after a few years, everything wears out. All the batteries wear out. Things break. If you reach a certain age in life like I have, you start to see everything wearing out. Everything goes down the tubes after a while. And so you have to be able to fix things, repair things, replace things. You have to, even look at the genetics of the food that you're growing. It might be affected by radiation, and you may have to renew and rebuild your stock from original seeds. You may have to have a special place where you grow radiation tolerant. Oh, it just goes on and on. In other words, if you're going to be there for a while, it's going to be a lot of work. You've got to build a civilization, not just drop things on the surface, little modules, and start, running around in spacesuits. Even your spacesuits are going to wear out. And spacesuits are really complicated things. You don't just, spin up a new one. They're made in really complicated factories with rare materials and difficult fabrication techniques and so forth. So, think about it. Just think about what you're really up against. If you're thinking that, we'll just move to Mars when we wear out, we ruin the Earth and it's no longer habitable. We'll just move to Mars. But really, Mars is not at all like the Earth. Mars does not have, a 7-Eleven. It doesn't have a local bar. It doesn't have, cable service. It doesn't have anything. It doesn't have, replacement parts when things break. You don't have, a shop. You take your car, you take your rover in, to the local shop. There isn't like, a two-headed Martian with, a set of tools that knows how to fix your, hybrid rover. So, anyhow, don't take this as somebody who's a skeptic. Just think about it. Think about the reality before you get all excited about, we're just going to go. I'd love to live on Mars. Well, you probably love to live on Mars for about a week until, you suddenly realize that there's, you've left the entire planet Earth behind and everything that it has to offer. So anyhow, that's all I have to say today about Mars. I'm sure I'll think of more at some point.